I had never been to South Dakota and was so delighted to be there. And Deadwood is one of the gems in South Dakota. A great first stop to visit when you get into Deadwood is the Adams Museum. You can find information about things that are going on in the city and look at the great displays that they have. When you come into Deadwood, there are two celebrities you have to meet. The first is Martha Jane Cannery, better known as Calamity Jane, and the other is James Butler Hickok, best known as Wild Bill Hickok. Hickok, being recognized as a gunfighter and a lawman, probably first came when he was a marshal in Abilene, Kansas. He was notable for his encounters with outlaws and his participation in several gunfights, which helped to cement his status as a fearless and a skilled gunfighter. His reputation further grew as a result of the 1861 McCandless affair, in which he was originally charged with murder in a gunfight, but then ultimately acquitted. This is a life-size statue that was made of Wild Bill Hickok back in 1902, but over the years people chipped at it and broke pieces away. But kind of cool, this is how tall he actually would have been. In addition to being one of the West's most well-known characters, Calamity Jane is clearly one of the most mysterious as well. As a young teen, she described herself as a remarkably good shot and a fearless rider for a girl of her age. Her relationship with Wild Bill is very, very conflicted. She claimed that after a gunfight with criminals, she nursed him back to health, and then they were later married. She said they had a baby girl together, and apparently her diary entries were always written to her daughter, who she called Janie. Janie was adopted by an English sea captain who supposedly kept in contact with Calamity, sending her news and photos of their daughter Jamie. After Wild Bill died, she wrote that without either of you, Janie or Wild Bill, the years ahead look like a lonely trail. This is what our hotel looked like in 1898. And there it is in 2023. Looks quite a bit the same. Across the street from the Adams Museum is this bust of Wild Bill Hickok, which is really cool. Our next stop was to head up the hill to Mount Moriah Cemetery, where both Calamity Jane and Wild Bill Hickok are buried. As you can see on the sign, apparently it was Calamity Jane's desire to be buried next to Wild Bill. Once again, there's so much mystery about the relationship between these two. I'll give you another story about how they happen to be buried together in a second. So Wild Bill was this famous gunslinger and everything like that. He was written a lot about in the pulp novels at the time, which kind of said a lot more about what he did than he actually did. But I love the story about Calamity Jane, where think of a woman at that time. She was like a scout for the military and whatever, and the story is told is that one time she was out doing the scouting, they were attacked. This one of the soldiers was kind of wounded, and she ran up with her horse, got him, and like threw him on her horse. And when he looked up at her, he goes, "You are a Calamity." Meaning the incredible way she was fearless and able to go and do something as remarkable as that. And that name, Calamity, stuck. Despite her rough exterior and problems with alcohol, she was particularly noted for charitable work and care of orphans and the poor. Okay, so Wild Bill and Calamity were contemporaries. They were alive at the same time in Deadwood. The relationship is not quite sure. Calamity actually claimed that they were married. Wild Bill said they never were. But supposedly the story is that Wild Bill's friends had Calamity buried next to him as a way of tweaking him, which is kind of a funny story. The mysterious stories of their lives together and separately will no doubt never be fully figured out or understood. The 76 Museum is another must stop when you're in Deadwood. This outfit was worn by Deadwood Dick, but this gun was in the collection of Calamity Jane. It's a Winchester repeating rifle. The description that goes with this photograph says that Calamity is actually holding the rifle I just showed you. This is an incredibly sad part of this museum. It talks about all the buffalo that were slaughtered. And there's an amazing book that was written by Zane Grey that's called The Thundering Herd. And he talks about how the Native Americans felt so helpless because they didn't have the gunpowder to fight against these crazy people who were coming in and just murdering the buffaloes. They said that they would ship out boatloads that each had 60,000 skins on them, and there'd be lines of them going down the Platte and other rivers. Such a sad thing. Wow, look at this incredible room with these old Western guns. I'll pick out a few and point them out to you. One of my favorites is a Henry rifle, and here's one from 1860. Amazing. It's interesting, it's known for that brass action, but it's funny over here, there is a Winchester that also has a brass action, which is interesting. Lever action rifles became more prevalent in the 1860s. And compared to these older ones, these single action firing ones, the Winchester fired rapidly, which made a huge difference. This is a cool rifle from 1890, but one of the things that's special about it is that it's engraved with a statement that said it's Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show. This display is mostly dedicated to Buffalo Bill. One thing that's really cool about this museum is they allow interaction from children with the different display items here. But not all the children are happy.
My stagecoach isn't going. Just stuck.
Seeing this horse-drawn hearse reminds me of that old movie Cat Ballou. I wonder if any of you have seen it. Let me know in the comments. And of course, you've got to have a covered wagon. Seth Bullock was another famous resident of Deadwood. As a sheriff, businessman, among other things, he committed to shaping Deadwood's early development. Bullock and Teddy Roosevelt had a deep friendship, which Bullock memorialized in the famous Friendship Tower outside of Deadwood. The Bullock Hotel was envisioned as a grand hotel in his mind that would serve as a symbol of progress and prosperity for Deadwood. The hotel's opening marked a significant transformation for Deadwood from a rough and tumble gold rush settlement to a more modern established community. It quickly became a central social hub in Deadwood and hosted notable personalities from the era. The Bullock Hotel also has a reputation for being one of the most haunted hotels in America. Particularly, Seth Bullock himself is said to still roam the halls of his beloved hotel, and guests and staff have reported sightings that pretty much match his description. Right by the area where you check in, there are all these books, and they're fun to look at because they're filled with all the different reports that people have made of the apparitions that they have seen as they've stayed at the hotel. There are a wide range of experiences that people have reported, but the Bullock Hotel has embraced its haunted reputation, with some staff members even participating in ghost tours. Here's our room in the Bullock Hotel. Beautiful old spot. I'll put some pictures up that you can see. But the earliest photographs of it are from 1900, but it was built back in the late 1800s. So this will be a fun spot tonight. Of course, if you're in Deadwood, you gotta go into Saloon No. 10 and see the spot where Wild Bill Hickok was murdered. The dead man's hand, black aces and eights, is supposedly the hand that Wild Bill was holding when he was shot.
Most folks nowadays, they do like to call me Wild Bill. And like I said, I'm going to tell you some stories about myself.
Pops is gonna play cards.
By August 2nd of 1876, Deadwood golf. His hair was green.
Man, tell you what, deal me out here in a second. I gotta get a drink. Charlie, get out of my chair.
Back up.
Wild Bill's reputation demanded that he be
Hey, I don't care how lucky you think it is. You know I said there. Get out of there, Charlie. Charlie, you are getting out of that chair. I'm not messing around.
We'll take your cards back.
No, get out of here.
on Bill's part did not try
Sit down.
his Bill quickly turned to draw his gun. Recognizing McCall as a newcomer to town, he greeted him with a friendly,
Howdy, Jack. You mean three?
soon as shit.
I don't know either.
While Bill's attention was on Massey, Bill suddenly Jack McCall discovered soon after forever known as the Dead Man's Hand. All fled the saloon except Carl Mann, who was held.
The trial itself is pretty funny, although it's based on truth, and McCall was actually acquitted of the crime, but later admitted to it and was hung. Deadwood is truly a great place to visit, and I particularly enjoyed the way the city embraces its own heritage.
Good to meet you. Thanks for stopping by.
And Calamity and I say thank you too for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next video.